Kia ora, everybody. I'm sitting here across the interwebs. We're both in Australia. This is good, but with a fellow Kiwi, and not just a fellow Kiwi, fellow Southlander, Dane Shelford, mate. What did you do on the weekend, brother?
The weekend, oh shit. I bought a mountain bike recently, and I've got one of those toddler seats on it. So I've got a son. He's nearly 2. Oh, he's 2 in December. So I've been taking him all around, like biking around the headland and along the beach. It's been awesome. So basically just did that, chilled out, swam in the pool. It was nice and hot, so nothing too strenuous.
Nice. And you released a quick wee video of your journey, which is quite a big one when you look at it on a map from Melbourne up to the Sunshine Coast. How was the trip, and is biking around the best way to explore a new place?
So I moved up to Sunshine Coast from Melbourne. I was in Melbourne for 3 years. So decided to vlog the trip up. Made sort of a journey of it. We took about 5 days and covered a few sort of surfing spots and saw the east coast of Australia, which was pretty awesome. Like, I was quite impressed with it, actually. Like, we say how beautiful New Zealand is, and it is, don't get me wrong, but I think some New Zealanders probably don't understand or don't realise just how beautiful Australia is as well. But yeah, definitely getting around on a bike is a good way to see the place. I've been trying to not use my GPS because I think it's a good way to sort of learn my way around, but I've sort of definitely gotten lost a few times.
Nice, but honestly, complaining of the cold. As a man from Bluff, what's going on, man? Have you been here too long?
The cold, yeah, I've definitely been here too long. I think it's been like 30-something degrees up here, and people have been complaining, and I've been finding it fine. I think it's my Niuean blood, eh? I think my Polynesian roots have sort of I'm accustomed to being in the hot, humid conditions.
Nice. Now, you mentioned 3 years in Melbourne. What promoted the move north, and two, what did you get out of living in such a hub? You've moved, a week too early, I reckon. Big week this week down there.
I've done a few Melbourne Cups. Actually, a few of us lads were on the front page for the drunken photos. It was an unfortunate photo. We weren't actually drunk or being larrikins. It was just someone had fallen over, and the photographer basically took the chance to take the photo, and it sort of was a wee bit out of context. So I've sort of avoided that situation.
Yeah.
I sort of moved up to Sunshine Coast for family life. So I lived in Melbourne. I've got my own business, and that sort of, it's a New Zealand-based business, but because we're doing most of our work out of Australia now, so that prompted me to move to Melbourne in the first place. And then the move north was for family reasons, and I can work from anywhere, which is a good thing. And it just makes it a bit better when it's a more family-friendly environment. I don't know if people know much about Melbourne, but we lived on Chapel Street, which is sort of party central / busy environment. So having a toddler is probably not the best environment living in that sort of area.
Nice. So before we get into your business and how you've got that set up to be working from anywhere, who's Dane Shelford today, for anybody out there that doesn't know you, mate?
Oh, Dane Shelford today. I'm a I say entrepreneur. I know it's sort of a bit of a common word these days, but I didn't go to university. I sort of only went to high school for rugby. I sort of plodded my way through life, played professional rugby, and then I've sort of just gone down this journey from when I was 21, and basically went down this entrepreneurial journey and sort of started and failed a lot of businesses, and where I'm at today is basically I run an international business. We send equipment all around the world, and it's a multi-million-dollar business, and I've grown it from working from anywhere, traveling the world and with my family and things like that. So I guess me today is I'm a really big advocate on freedom, and freedom for me is having the ability to sort of do what you want when you want. Obviously, within reason. I can't go out and buy a private jet, but yeah, essentially that's sort of my philosophy and who I am today.
Nice, mate. And I bought into one of your early businesses and got some very quality compression gear. What was the deal there, man? How was that a itch scratcher for you? Or was that just professional sport compression wear? Let's get into this.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, and like it was one of the earlier businesses that I started with a good friend of mine, and it was when compression clothing had just sort of started coming out, so Skins, 2XU, and those sort of guys were sort of finding their feet and establishing themselves as market leaders. And we sort of just wanted to have a bit of fun with it and create a New Zealand-based compression clothing company that sort of had a bit of a New Zealand flavour. But looking back in hindsight, that was sort of before that whole yoga pants, activewear sort of revolution. And, you know, had we sort of stuck at it or maybe had the foresight for that potential market, we could have maybe, I don't know, pivoted it and then I'd probably be retired living in the Bahamas or something like that now. But yeah, it was an itch scratcher because we used the clothing for recovery with rugby, and basically just wanted to create our own, and people seemed to like it.
No, it was awesome design, and you touched on a bit of Polynesian flavour, and so was that a good way to sort of express yourself or get creative with things, or
yeah, pretty much. We were just trying to be a bit different, and you know, sort of just have a bit of a New Zealand twist. We didn't think too sort of long and hard about it. We just thought it was cool and sort of slapped on some designs, and they had a bit of a meaning behind them as well. But it definitely was a point of difference for us and sort of what got us noticed anyway.
And so did you identify something with that, or just was it gut feel?
Gut feel, really. It was creating the product and then creating sort of a minimal viable product and then testing it with the market, getting feedback, and then sort of doubling down on what people liked. Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. And so you mentioned that you didn't go to university at 21. No. You decided to go headfirst into business. What was sort of the push, or was it a pull, or what was happening?
So I used to play professional rugby or semi-professional rugby for Southland, and I will touch on it a bit later, but I played for a couple other teams. But I just had a couple of really bad injuries. I had probably should have ended my career because I was never the same after it. But just had a big injury, and before that I sort of just thought I was going to be an All Black, you know, and I'd sort of, that was my whole life's dream, my whole life's progression. But it sort of wasn't until I had that injury that I realised that, you know, it could all be taken away from me from an instant. I didn't really have anything to fall back on, and being a professional rugby player, you're sort of, I mean, really just a piece of meat, you know. You're sort of potentially chasing contract to contract. So yeah, that was a big realization for me, and to be honest, I started getting into that whole mindset of, you know, maybe I could be a business owner. I started reading, you know, a lot of books around it, things like that. It was actually Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't know if you've read it. That just completely set a light bulb off in my head. Before that, I hadn't read a lot of books. I probably maybe read, I don't know, 1 or 2 books end to end, if that. And I remember this particular book, reading it, you know, within a day, cover to cover, and then just having that realization of, oh shit, you know, I've got the potential to do this, and that's what sparked my sort of entrepreneurial journey.
Nice. And so, what do you sort of think, looking back from your humble beginnings in Bluff and Southland Boys High School, and like I said, going to school to play rugby, to now having to have your fingers in many pies across, you know, your brain across many areas. what do you think's a big contrast, and what's the sort of aspect of you as a young folk that shows up today, man?
Yeah, I mean, my upbringing was not the norm. I talk about it a lot with my partner now, because like she's got such, you know, beautiful family. I'm not saying my family weren't amazing. They were, but we sort of, our upbringings were chalk and cheese, and what I thought was normal when I was growing up to what, you know, to how her upbringing was completely different. So, you know, my upbringing was very humble, was very difficult at times, and I think having come from that to where I am today, it's definitely contributed to sort of my success today, because I feel it's given me the ability to sort of persevere in difficult situations, not give up, have hope. Yeah, I guess it's cliche, you know. There's a lot of people that come from, you know, hard upbringings, but I definitely think for me that rings true. Is just having that grit to persevere through difficult situations.
Nice. And I might have had things wrong, but I vaguely remember going to Dunedin with you when I was a young folk. I think I was about 8, and we were at New Zealand juniors or something, and I was just wowed by this kid from Buff that was an awesome butterfly, and I always looked at butterfly like, how do you even do that? And then Dane, this big muscly kid, being like a sort of a physical specimen through school, was how did you sort of block out that ability that, oh, I'm already there, to just keep on going, like you said with rugby and pushing on with rugby?
To be honest, I don't know if I ever really did. Like I always had natural ability, and I feel like, looking back in hindsight, that I probably didn't give my sport like my everything, because I got by physically. Like I was, you know, I was always stronger and faster than a lot of my peers when I was younger. It caught up with me later on in life, but I always just sort of cruised through sport, and yeah, I can only sort of be honest with myself and realise that now in hindsight. If I was able to do it all again, I definitely had room for improvement in terms of effort when it comes to training and sort of improving.
And like you say, you can look back on it and say, honestly, well, maybe I could have done greater things. Does that push you through today to go, there's always more to be done?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in progression. Like it's weird. Like I get anxiety if I'm not, like if I'm just sort of doing nothing. And I'm like, if you follow me on social media, you know, I do a lot of traveling with my family, and you know, we do a lot of exploring and things like that. But I have to be progressing, and I guess part of that that realization of not giving it my all when I was younger, I think that probably contributes a little bit to that. But also, I don't know, I just have this feeling inside of me that I just always want to do more. And it's sort of something that I can't shake, but it's a good thing, because I love what I do, and I love sort of, you know, working hard and progressing with what I'm doing at the moment.
Nice. Now, with rugby, you said you thought that, hey, I'm going to be an All Black. Yeah. Am I right in saying that you were in the New Zealand schools team? Is that correct?
New Zealand under 19s. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Even larger ones. And so, what sort of things were instilled in that environment that you sort of take through into the rest of your life?
I think with that was it opened my eyes from a cultural perspective, because we sort of playing with, you know, coming from Southland, where you're quite isolated, to now playing with guys from South Auckland, and then travelling to South Africa. We had the World Cup in South Africa, and sort of doing all those things. I think that that definitely helped. But also being in the environment, like one of the coaches that travelled with us was Steve Hansen, and you know, having just being around those guys, he was just, even back then, he was just an amazing sort of coach, and just really got the most out of everyone. And he was just, as he is now, like no bullshit, and just really direct and honest. And I think that's definitely little things that I've taken away from that experience is sometimes, don't beat around the bush, just be straight up and honest. But yeah, it sort of is a long time ago now. It's sort of hard to remember, but it definitely put me on the right path. I could have definitely gone the other way, but sort of being in that environment and around successful people definitely helped with me in my early years.
Lovely. And you said you played for Southland for a good number of years and then had to move on. What was it like coming back and having to face the maroon and gold?
Yeah, playing for Southland was awesome. And then I moved up to Hawke's Bay and played for Hawke's Bay, and then had to come back down and play Southland at the mighty Roaring Pen. It was sort of mixed emotions because I played Southland my whole life. Like, I loved playing for Southland. It was just I sort of wasn't performing, and it was time to move on, and also a good chance to grow as a person. So I went back down there, and I remember getting herald abuse from the sidelines, which I was expecting anyway. I don't blame people. I would have done the same thing. But yeah, that was interesting.
Lovely. And I noticed that, I don't know if it's just because you and I are talking, but you managed to hold on to a healthy R there. What keeps you grounded and keeps your foundation? You said you got a wee boy and your beautiful partner. You've got some mates from Invercargill that were in Melbourne that you drove up with.
Yeah.
What keeps Dane grounded in on the path?
To be honest with you, without sounding all fluffy, is probably gratitude. Like, I'm just extremely grateful for everything that I have. I remember when I was a young boy growing up, we were poor. So for me, I was always thought, money was, what I wanted to chase. And it's sort of been a quick realization that it's not, money per se, but I've sort of lost my train of thought, but I don't know where I was going with that. What was the question again?
What keeps you grounded?
Yeah, just gratitude for everything that I have, the health of my family, the health of me, and just the little things that I have in my life. That's definitely the one thing that keeps me grounded.
Mm-hmm. And so you said there that you've gone in search of more time and more freedom, and you said you're quite big on telling it like it is on social media. What are you hoping to sort of share with your audience?
I sort of try and inspire by action. Like, I travel a lot with my family. We've got a young family with my young boy, and we've got one on the way. We sort of do a lot of traveling. We went to Europe last year. I just feel like I just try and inspire by action, because I feel, with people sort of not being happy with where they're at in their lives, whether it's, working in a job that they hate, and things like that. I just sort of try and, I don't know, inspire people to see another way, and maybe, and help people sort of by sharing everything that I've sort of learned and everything that I know. Not that I know it all. I definitely don't claim to know it all. I'm still learning, but the things that have helped me sort of live that sort of life and have that sort of lifestyle. That's why I sort of share and do what I do.
Nice. And you've just spoken two topics that are quite massive for me right now. One is being grateful for that position you're in, and day-to-day life, especially when you just touch on there, where you're working for somebody else, you can get caught up in it. And then on another front, you said about gratitude and just realizing that you're in an amazing place, and that you've got it better than everybody else, and then
100%.
And you also want to look at look at things up from the perspective that if I wasn't doing this, would I be jealous of somebody else doing that? And
Yeah, 100%.
it touches on two things: that hey, you need to be grateful of what you're doing, but also you've got to be driven to keep doing the things that you want to do and work through the hard stuff. And so you said about perseverance and hope.
Yep.
How does that sort of show up in a business front?
Because it's when you, I had a normal paying job, and I quit that job and basically was starting my businesses and was on the bones of my ass. Like just worrying about whether I could afford to pay rent and things like that. Being in a situation where, I sort of couldn't afford to do a lot of things, and just having the perseverance to sort of stay true to my vision and what I wanted in the long run. That history of having to persevere through tough times, I think that definitely helped. And also knowing that I could live on the smell of an oily rag in a weird way is quite comforting as well. It sort of makes you realize, you don't need a lot of things to make you happy, but to also survive. Sometimes we get a bit caught up in all these things, but that's, yeah.
Nice. And so is the vision for you to sort of have an all-encompassing life where everything is sort of one and has one flow, or do you sort of bring balance to your life, that you've got a work life and a family life and an interest life?
Yeah. Big one. Just massive on work-life balance. As much as I love hustling, like I could work non-stop if I was allowed to, but I just think having the freedom and sort of flexibility to do what I want when I want. For me, that's spending time with my family, having the flexibility to spend time with my family. Like if I don't want to work on Friday, then I won't work. I've got that choice, and I can spend that time with my son, my family. And that's for me. That's part of the reason of sort of everything I do, and I've structured my businesses purposely for me to be able to do that. Like in my business, looking after my staff, my suppliers, and our clients is paramount. Don't get me wrong, but also sort of structuring the business in a way that I'm not confined to one location, or also, being a slave to my business as well, which is something I'm very mindful of.
And so you said that when you got into the business thing, you read a book front cover to cover, first tab board data. Is there any other sort of books that help you to continue to learn, or is the business giving you feedback?
Man. Yeah, there's so many to name. Obviously, different books for different reasons, but another really good book was The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
I was wondering.
So that was the whole, that was a huge paradigm shift from, the hustle hard, because that gave me the foresight to look deep into the future and be like, well, actually, what life do I want to live? And that's the question I ask myself when I'm starting a new business, or if I'm, if we're growing the business or creating a new service, or, releasing a new product, is how this is going to affect me personally. And, there's always instances in the early on where, you've got to put your head down, bum up and do the work. Don't get me wrong, but just having that, knowing that, in the long run, I still are able to live my life the way I want to live. So Tim Ferriss's book was a big help in sort of changing my mindset.
And so do you have sort of a template for what equals a yes, or things that you say no to? Is there any sort of tactics that you applied to say yes to moving forward on something, or pivoting and expressing an interest in something else?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I don't really have any rules or guidelines per se. It's just more by gut feel for me. Like I'll assess the situation and I'll know, pretty quickly whether I'll do it or not. Mm-hmm. I'm a big advocate. I don't like booking my calendar out too far in advance as well. So generally I'll try and keep things within 1 or 2 weeks, because I just yeah, I just like having the freedom. I don't like saying yes to something in months ahead, and then when it comes to it, generally things have changed or my mindset's changed, and I'm not, not fully committed to it. So I try and avoid that situation.
Nice. And so what sort of inspired you to get onto the whole social media thing? Obviously, the things like vlogging and you put a lot of work into your videos. What was sort of the kick on for that? Was it a Gary Vee moment, or is that just some synergy?
It was a bit of synergy because I didn't really know who Gary Vee was until I sort of started doing it. But yeah, it was a little bit about me wanting to initially provide something that my kids could watch in a weird way. It started like around me just sort of brain dumping everything I knew. But then I was thinking, oh shit, people are going to think I'm a try-hard Tony Robbins or like a Gary Vee or something. So then I sort of wanted to do it more around storytelling and around and more documenting of me doing stuff, like traveling with my family rather than saying it. I was like, oh, I'll just take the camera with me and do it and sort of share knowledge along the way. But yeah, I sort of, that was sort of part of the reason why I picked up the camera. I sort of, I lost my parents at a young, when they were young, and I sort of, it's always in the back of my mind. So I sort of have this sort of deep-seated, I don't know, I sort of don't know how to put it, but yeah, I've got a desire to sort of put myself out there for, hopefully help some people in the future, but also help my children if they watch it when they're older as well.
Nice, bro. And so do you do any sort of daily practice to keep you on guard, or when you wake up in the morning and your family's there, is that motivation enough?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've gone through the whole, wake up, meditation, cold shower, like all that stuff. And that forms part of my day. Like I'll generally get up at around 5 a.m. Not for any particular reason. Main reason is my son probably gets up around that time. Because I run an international business, I get a lot of, I find it really hard for me to wake up in the morning, and I try and not look at any social media or emails and things like that. But because I run an international business, I know a lot of, things happen while I'm sleeping. So I find it really hard to switch off in the morning, because I know in the back of my mind I've probably got a whole bunch of stuff that I need to attend to. So I've gone through a whole trial and error phase of trying to ignore those ignore those things, but now I'm at a stage where I basically get up and I'll look at my emails, and I've got a process of I either if I can do them straight away, then within like a minute or two I'll do it, if it's a quick reply or anything like that. If I can't do it within a minute or 2 minutes, and I can delegate it, I'll delegate it. I'll forward it on to someone else. But if I can't do it 1 to 2 minutes and it's something that I have to do, I'll add it to my Trello board. Either for today, or if it's non-urgent, I'll add it to a non-urgent Trello board column. Sorry. So once in the morning, once I've done that, then I know I can then relax. And if I'm lucky, if my son's still asleep, then I'll do a bit of meditation. So I'll sort of just practice mindfulness. I've done it for years, especially with rugby. That was a coping mechanism with a lot of stress, and so I'll do that. But otherwise, I'll sort of spend time with my son, my partner, and then sort of try and go to the gym, and then into my workday.
Wicked. How do you sort of structure your business so it gives you the freedom to focus on what you need to do as the leader?
Good question. Outsourcing and delegation is a massive one. Technology is another big one. Using technology. So to give you an example, for my business Medical Resale, we take use medical equipment and from hospitals and clinics, and we send them all around the world. People think we send them to third world countries, but we actually don't. But basically, I'm in Sunshine Coast. We've got staff in Melbourne, staff in the UK, and staff in the United States. So to bring us all together, we use technology, so centralized CRMs. We use Zoom for conferencing and things like that. So it's just utilizing technology to enable people to work remotely and sort of structuring our whole process around technology. But yeah, delegation and outsourcing of tasks as well, hiring smartly to people with, good initiatives, people that can, don't sort of need their hand held and sort of babysat for certain roles. So that's probably the main ones that enable me to create the structure to do that. Because I'm a big advocate too, like in my social media, I talk about, like people talk about, they think, like you're a laptop entrepreneur, like people think you have to be in internet marketing or something like that to have that life. But for me, that can be achieved in any business, whether you're a tradesman, whether you're whether you run a retail store or anything like that. You can still have a physical business, but you as a business owner can still enable or structure your business for you personally to not have to be at the forefront or at a physical location every day. Yeah.
So what's the tool that you use to delegate a task to somebody, and how do you know that they're not overwhelmed with tasks already?
I don't really have a tool per se. Like it's not so much of, I don't really have a tool like allocating tasks. It's more just forwarding an email and saying, "Oh, hey, can you take care of this?" and things like that. If people are overstretched, generally we've got a pretty open environment where we can discuss things. We generally, but I suppose we use communication platforms, like we use Slack. In one of my other businesses, we use Slack to talk to our whole team. And generally, we also use Trello for project management, so you can sort of identify how much workload one particular person has got. That's in my other business. And no real specific sort of golden tool that I can share. Sorry.
It's already the two common tools that can be easily implemented, I'm sure. So you said you were in Melbourne for 3 years and you're still New Zealand-based business. What do you think it takes to get into the actual freedom stage? And I'm sure you probably never feel free.
No, you don't. It's weird you say that. Just to pivot a little bit, I went on an expedition with Logan Law. I saw that you saw that on Instagram. That was the first time, I think, in 5 or 6 years where I haven't had my phone or I haven't been able to be contacted. So I talk about freedom and things like that, but I still have to be in touch with the world or online at least. But also, what was your question?
What do you think it takes to get to the stage that you're at now?
I think like in the early stages, it just like any business, there's no, it's not going to be all, sunshine and rainbows from day one. It's bloody hard work, and it's just building the foundations, having a solid business platform, having a solid business or foundations to then enable you to start delegating and sort of taking a step back. But I mean, I can only speak from experience because every business is different and sort of different requirements, things like that. But for me, it was building the foundation of the business, ensuring that, everything's solid from the ground up. How we, staff, the products and services that we're providing to our clients, and then obviously looking after the delivery of products and services for our clients and making sure that our clients are very well looked after, because that for us was the most important thing. And once we sort of had a solid sort of foundation for that, then they enable me to start hiring staff and sort of delegating a bit more and things like that. So it's certainly been a process. So I mean, I've started and I've failed. Well, I've had more failures than I have successes in business, but I'm at a stage now where I've got my medical resale business, but I've also got a media sort of company helping small businesses as well. So that's doing that with medical resale took a lot longer than doing it with my media company, because I was able to apply a lot of what I learned with medical resale into the media company.
I mean, and you said you don't want to commit to too much down the track, but where do you think the vision for Dane's going to take you?
Oh, yeah. The vision is, to be honest, I don't aspire to a lot of material things. But one thing I do want to have is I want to have a house right on the beach. So from a materialistic perspective, that's something that I want to have within sort of 5 to 10 years. And I'm confident I can do it within 5 years, but a bit of a personal goal of mine. But apart from that, I just want to keep doing what I love, keep providing for my family. That's the most important thing. And yeah, just keep adding to what I'm doing now. I don't sort of have too many other major aspirations other than that, because I think if I focus on doing that, then everything else will sort of take care of itself.
Build it on itself, mate. And so,
yeah, exactly.
Where do people find you, Dane? Your social media is pretty big on Instagram, and what else can people sort of look you up on?
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't say big, mate, but I probably my Facebook page, Dane Shelford, Life of a Dadtrepreneur. I post probably most of my stuff on there.
Yeah.
And I've been so flat out with client work that I've sort of neglected a bit of my own content, but I've got a whole bunch of content coming out that'll be coming out in the next few months and onwards. So it's probably the best place to find me.
Wicked, mate. And you've got a bit of growth here at the moment, and you would in Cardrona with a bunch of lads. Are you doing Movember, or is that just you need a shave again?
Oh, mate, this is like years in the making, eh? I've sort of I've not doing Movember this year. I probably should. I just left it a bit too late, just with a whole bunch of stuff going on. But I'll definitely be cheating if I shaved all that off, because this is a few months in the making.
And while we're on Logan Law and being in the wilderness with a bunch of blokes, what was your biggest takeaway from that expedition, man?
My biggest takeaway would have been I don't know. It was bloody hard because we walked about 16 kilometers, sort of in waist deep snow in some parts. I guess my biggest takeaway was just embracing being outside my comfort zone. Like that was, walking around the mountains in snow. I had none of the gear. I had to go to one of the local stores here and buy all the equipment like a complete rookie and amateur. I had all, brand new boots and everything, so I definitely looked like a rookie. But it was just, biggest one was just embracing change, embracing being outside my comfort zone, which is something I always try and do. I always feel if I can put myself outside my comfort zone from time to time, it can only be a good thing.
Wicked. So what would you like to leave people with, Dane, or do you have any questions that you'd like to ask the audience, or do you sort of live by something?
I just live by just being yourself. I probably spent a lot of my earlier years trying to pretend I was someone I wasn't, trying to impress people, trying to impress other people, whereas I've never been any happier other than just being myself. And if people like it, they like it, and if they don't, I don't really care. As long as I'm a good person, that's all that matters.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I would look forward to following more of your content, mate. It's always good to watch, and
awesome, man.
Awesome to see someone from Deep South doing great things. Cheers, bro.
No worries, bro. Thanks. Cheers.